It is 5 p.m.
Nothing else, man.
Is this on? Yeah. Okay, it's 5 p.m. Let us get started with our meeting of Planning Commission and Board of Adjustments. Can we get a roll call, please?
Ben Hammer.
Here.
Jim Haney.
Here.
Paul Krabenhoff. Matt Lyseth.
Here.
Nicole Mattson.
Here.
Joel Paulson. Tim Stone.
Here.
Did I get everybody?
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Can I get a motion to approve the June minutes?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Do we have any citizens to be heard on any issues that are not on the agenda? Doesn't look like it. Okay, now, we are going to we're going to have a public hearing on the request of Key Contracting LLC to rezone 1401 to 1403 28th Avenue North from RLD OA, residential low density OA, to HI, heavy industrial. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Point of order.
Oh,
Chair
Yes.
Mattson, the hearing's actually already been closed. So this is just, you're just bringing back your tabled item from the previous meeting.
okay, so then what do I have to do? Reopen? What do we do?
Just start talking.
Okay.
You don't, I can help when
That's
you're
fine.
ready.
So I just have a list, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Can you, Robin, give the commission some background information for those of us who were not here last month?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Mattson. As you may recall, some of you were here, some of you were not. This item was tabled at the last meeting so that the commission could ask some additional questions of the applicant, and that we could, staff could gather some additional information about the proposed use and possible effects to the site. I updated the staff report in your packet to include some of those items on page 7 under stormwater. I added some information about best management practices for if any loose materials would be stored on site, which was a question that was brought up at the last meeting due to the construction business that's going to be located there. And then also a floodplain question was asked, and I talked to our utilities engineer about that. And the floodplain map is included in your report, and anything stored on the site would just have to stay out of that area, equipment or materials.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it would have to stay out of the 100-year floodplain, not the
Yes.
500-year.
Right.
Almost the whole thing is in the 500-year flood.
Correct.
So,
So
yeah.
if they're storing loose materials, we'd recommend that they use the best management practices that are recommended by MPCA, and most companies like this, they do know that. So Tom Martin of Key Contracting is here to answer any specific questions. And I think the only other thing that I wanted to point out was I forgot to mention at the last meeting, just for maybe some of the new commissioners, most of the items that come before the Planning Commission have a 60-day deadline for action. So in this case, we had to request a waiver to extend that deadline from the applicant, and he did grant it. So I have until August 23rd to get this through council, which is plenty of time. So I just want to make you aware, some people might not know that. CUPs, variances, vacations, rezonings, it's a statutory requirement, and generally our applicants are very amenable to waiving. I've worked in places where they're not, so if you don't act on it within a 60-day period, it's automatically approved. So that's why that deadline, we just have to keep that in mind when we process these applications.
60 days from the
The
application date?
application date. So in this case, he submitted his application in April, because he actually submitted it pretty early to our deadline. So it would have, if we would have gone through the regular process for council, it would have had final action on the last city council meeting that it was scheduled, so it would have been fine. But that's really even close to. So this case, I did get an extension, so we have until August 23rd to finalize. And this will go to council, the second July meeting and the first August meeting, so we should be good.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, because was not aware of that, and so what is so the application was submitted in April, and then we didn't get it until June, and then, so what happens in the interim between when the application is filed and when we hear when we have a public hearing?
We advertise for the public hearing. It has, the 2 weeks before the public hearing. If we're running up against deadlines, we might have to change the date of the meeting. We've had to sometimes get creative, but in this case, it was gonna work out with, 'cause we do check those as soon as those applications come in, because a lot of people don't apply until the deadline. Well, the deadline is 4 weeks before the meeting. Well, what if they applied, 8 weeks before the, whatever meeting? So we could get it on an earlier meeting possibly, even though they may have missed the deadline for that meeting. But the same 60-day thing has been around for a long time, so we're creative. We'll get it done.
Great, thank
Or we'll
you.
beg for a waiver.
Okay. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add before I ask a couple questions?
No, I just wanted to provide that information just as a informational and let you ask Mr. Martin questions.
So I have 3 questions, probably to start with for you, and then perhaps Mr. Martin if we need to. On page 7, under stormwater, where it says, if users choose to store loose materials on site, best management practices will be recommended. What is the, when we say recommended, who recommended, what is the enforcement behind that recommendation, if any?
Well, because we're not a regulatory agency for those types of things, MPCA would be the regulatory agency. So this company, I talked to them, they're very aware of best management practices, and that's just a way, I'll just use an example. The city stores loose materials on some of their properties, and they use those concrete barriers to kind of keep them in a certain area. Well, that keeps them from kind of, washing away. In this case, because this is near the creek that goes into the Red River, which is an impaired waterway, they're gonna know where those materials are coming from if they happen to go in there. And, this company would be regulated by MPCA, possibly fined. Most likely won't happen because they know what they need to do. But it's not the city that would be, we would probably have some consultation in that, but we're not the regulatory agency to monitor that.
Okay, that answers that question, and actually my second question too. So then, my last question was, on page 8, item number 4, the proposed use will not adversely impact the area. Can you explain the basis of that point on that? How are we making that determination that the proposed use will not adversely impact the area?
These consideration of criteria are based on when we're looking at zoning and the comprehensive plan. So as I stated on page 5, we discussed at the last meeting that this area is suitable for heavy industrial rezoning and the land use per the comprehensive plan. And then what we look at as staff, we're looking at the zoning. Is it appropriate? What does the future land use say? It says heavy industrial, it's appropriate. So that's what we're looking at. So when I say it's not going to be impactful, they are rezoning it to what we would rezone it. Like if that was just, because it's probably been a housekeeping for the city to rezone it eventually. We never got around to it after the annexation at this point. So because uses change, any type of heavy industrial use can go there, and we think that's an appropriate area. So even though, it's next to a waterway, we would recommend any use that would go in there to not impair that waterway further. That's why that comment's in there.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Robin or for Mr. Martin?
Madam Chair. Thank you for coming, Mr. Martin, and sorry you had to
come a second time.
I didn't make the last one. I'm
And-
sorry
and
about that.
I'm sure Robin probably filled you in on the gentleman that came and some of his concerns. And I think his concerns were valid in respect of stockpiling material and potential bank stability issues and those sorts of things. And I know Key Contracting, and they know what they're doing when it comes to that kind of stuff. But maybe you could just give me just a little overview of what you plan to do with the site, what the operations might look like there.
Well, Commissioners, my name's Tom Martin. I'm with Key Contracting. We've actually had a presence in Moorhead for 15 years on First Avenue North. And the operations that we were doing there are going to be real similar to what we're doing on 28th Avenue. We do store a little gravel. We store quite a bit of equipment, comes and goes out of there. We do a lot of work for the city of Moorhead, so we've had a presence here for a long time. As the First Avenue North properties around us kind of got a little tonier and that area started to perk up, we felt the pressure to kind of get out of there. Nobody wants piles of some rubble laying, on one of your main thoroughfares in town. So when this property became available, we were interested in it and looked at it to base our Moorhead operations out of. And the things that we're going to do there are really no different than what was happening on First Avenue. If we've got a partial load of concrete rubble, we dump that out, and then when we have a full load, we load it up and we take it to the recycling center. There's just, those are the kind of things we do. If we've got a partial load of gravel that we need, that usually goes there and transitions out of there. So it's not going to be a situation where we're piling it 30 feet high. It's going to be a load here and a load there. And Robin was right. We work with stormwater pollution prevention measures every day. So it's something that if we don't do it, we really don't want to be involved with the pollution control agency, especially on this side of the river. So it's something we take pretty seriously. So if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I think that pretty well clarifies everything. So thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions for Robin or Mr. Martin? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for
Thank
coming
you.
back and for being flexible on the timeline. Are there any citizens who wish to be heard either for or against the requested action? It does not appear to be the case. Okay, I'm sorry. Public hearing is closed, so we don't need to close the public hearing?
No.
Okay. Can I get a motion on the item?
So moved.
I think you have to say it. I think you have to move to approve, right?
I'll move to approve the request of Key Contracting LLC to rezone 1401 to 1403 20th Avenue North from residential low density 0 to highway heavy industrial.
I will second that amendment or that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, I don't see any discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other business?
We do not.
Do we have any other reports or information?
We do not.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Let's go.